Welcome to the Railway Series Book Club, the podcast where we dissect the Railway Series. I'm Jamie.
I'm Marina.
I'm Liv.
And we hope you enjoy the show.
Rainy's just staring at me. I don't think she knows what poggers means.
Rainy, you're poggers.
She jumped on the couch right as you said that.
Tell Rainy she's poggers.
You're poggers. Please don't leave.
Your cat's disappointed in you for being a gamer.
I feel like just your poggers, please don't leave. It's just one of the funniest fucking things I've ever heard.
Should we make that the cold open?
Welcome to the Railway Series Book Club, where we alienate our cats by saying gamer slang at them. I'm Jamie. I am your hostess for tonight. My pronouns are she, her. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves too?
I'm Marina, your TV series bitch, and my pronouns are she, her.
I'm Liv.
That's all again? That's all you're gonna say about yourself?
Yeah, that's what you get.
Is this just what you're gonna do every day?
Yes. I don't have a role here. I'm just here.
You need a title. I propose adorable.
Oh God.
I mean,
okay.
I don't. Fucking...
We went one whole episode without these two canoodling. All right, wrap it up. Show's over.
we did it.
I mean, I'm surprised we went a whole episode, honestly.
Yeah, I've just fucking episodes without Liv and Mari flirting with each other counter goes up now.
0.
Yeah, set your counters to 0, folks. Oh God.
We are the worst.
Yeah, y'all forgot your pronouns too.
She, her.
Yeah, that's good.
We did it.
Yup. So today we're going to be looking at the second story in the first book of the Railway series. The story is titled Edward and Gordon. Before we start, I feel like we should talk about the context the story is in. This won't be as long as explaining the entire origin of the Railway series, but I feel like it's important we establish this before we get into it, because there's really no other place to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Reasonable.
Yeah. So, just like the last story, this story was written while Christopher was a little boy, about 2 or 3 years old. I don't think he was in bed with measles at this point in time, but timeline's a bit fuzzy, I think, here. But it's definitely during that period of time.
I think it was in the same few months.
Yeah. So I think it's either at school or on his home street, there was, a rude kid that Christopher knew who was named Gordon. And Audrey, being the master of creating self-insert characters, decided to use that name in a story about Edward.
And thus created a character that outlasted Edward himself.
Oh God. the railway engine, singular.
There were a ton of memes about that going around.
Yeah, no, there still are.
Where
That's because it's funny.
It's just the title. It's just like the title screen. It's just like the cover, but Gordon's just really sad because he's the only one there.
Yeah. His friends are gone. He is sad.
Push me to the edge. All my friends are dead.
Oh no.
Push me to the edge. All my friends are dead.
I never even liked them, and now they're gone, and now I'm having emotions. Ugh. Where were we? Right. I think that because Audrey did this, it essentially kind of, solidified Edward at, this stage in his existence as, Christopher Audrey's self-insert.
Yeah, basically.
Because, like, you know, when you think about it, he's this little engine who is stuck in his shed and can't leave into the outside world. And there's this one really mean engine nearby who's called Gordon. I mean, that's basically what Christopher Audrey's life looks about right now. In, you know, this moment in, like, 1942.
Yeah, he's stuck in bed with measles, which is probably where, like, Edward wanting to get out of the shed was, like, based on, and like you said, Gordon is based on just an asshole on his street.
Yeah.
And
This is the thing. What do you think the kid who was the basis for Gordon is doing now?
I don't know. He's probably really old.
Yeah.
Do you think he's dead?
I mean, I don't think any... Do you think he even knew he was the inspiration for this?
Well, this is the thing. Was the book published at a point where they still knew Gordon?
I don't think we'll ever know the answer to this question.
Yeah.
And that's really fucking weird. Because, like, this, you know, what the fuck happened to Gordon's namesake?
Where is he? What's he doing now?
Hashtag find Gordon, except don't, because...
He changed his name to Keith Wickham.
Changed his...
Oh no! Oh! The prophecy!
The prophecy.
He changed his name to Henry, and then he actually read the book and was like, God damn.
Just can't catch a fucking break.
That's why they wanted to lock Henry in the tunnel. They heard about him changing his name to Henry, so the Reverend Audrey, out of spite, was like, okay, next story is gonna be about this.
So in essence, when people say Gordon is just Green Henry, like Henry is just Green Gordon, they're right. They're the same person.
We deciphered
God.
the lore.
We've gone deeply off the rails.
I mean, this is a podcast about trains, Jamie.
And we are talking about Gordon. I guess off the rails is a suitable direction to take it. But I feel like we should start reading the story now.
Let's go.
Okay.
I think my favorite comment we got on the last episode was just Don saying, I'm surprised people could talk about Edward's Day Out for 45 minutes.
I mean, honestly, same.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. One of the engines in Edward's shed was called Gordon. He was very big and very proud. You watch me this afternoon, little Edward, he boasted, as I rush through with the express. That will be a splendid sight for you. Just then, his driver pulled the lever. Goodbye, little Edward, said Gordon as he puffed away. Look out for me this afternoon. Edward went off, too, to do some shunting. So Gordon's a fucking asshole.
Can I point something out with this illustration?
Yes.
Edward is doing poggers.
God damn it. This is just the concept.
No.
This is the concept of this. This is just gonna be the...
I don't think it's a full pog. Because...
Well, for one thing, it's in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and his eyes, like... It elicits a different sort of expression than poggers.
Yeah, this is an exclamation of, like, fear as opposed to an exclamation of, like, hype.
That a poggers... It doesn't look like he's reacting to a poggers moment. It looks like he's reacting to a moment that is incredibly unpoggers.
Yeah, like, you know, Gordon broke into your face that he's going to take the express.
Thank you for that incredibly intricate dissection of Edward's emotions, Marina.
Welcome to the Railway Series Book Club, where we do scholarly dissection of the Railway Series. Thank you, Comrade Marina.
You're welcome, Comrade Jamie.
God.
If I can do something actually kind of serious, I do actually really like how Gordon's drawn in this illustration.
Yeah, Gordon actually looks really good here.
Yeah, no, he does.
Like, it might just be like, it might not be anything, but I think the fact that he's like already halfway out of the shed and he looks so much bigger is kind of a good idea of what kind of character he is even before you actually read the paragraph accompanying the illustration.
Yeah, it's like it's a good visual metaphor. And speaking of illustrations, we will get to the Middleton illustrations in eventually. I just want to talk about a specific one,
Mhm.
but
I haven't
they
actually seen them for this book.
go
Or
on the
this-
wiki. They're
The
like
story.
they sure do fucking exist.
Because there's some weird Gordon faces even just in this version
yeah.
of it.
The Middleton version of the illustration is nowhere near as impressive.
Oh.
But Edward does look a lot sadder.
Gordon's face! He reminds me of some Trains fan character. I think it might be the Eagle model used in the Dark Side of Eagle the Red Engine.
Well, no, that eagle face is taken from the close-up of Eagle that's, like, next to Gordon in Edward's Day Out. Oh god, why are we calling him Eagle? Fuck.
Okay, my bad. Winston.
Ugh. Alright, well, moving on. Edward liked shunting. It was fun playing with the trucks. He would come up quietly and give them a pull. Oh, 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 screamed the truck. Whatever is happening? Then he would stop and the silly trucks would go bump into each other. Oh, 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 they cried again. Edward pushed them until they were running nicely, and when they weren't expecting it, he would stop. One of them would be sure to run onto another line. Edward played till there were no more trucks. Then he stopped to rest.
So,
This is
like,
the first time we see the trucks.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so,
Huh.
like, they're so very strange in this. Like, you know, obviously this is, you know, early installment weirdness. You know, they haven't had their proper characterization yet. But,
Yeah,
like, here they're just kind of like, you know, dopey, I guess.
They don't even really mention them being troublesome later in this story when it would be applicable.
Yeah, you know.
I like that this sets up Edward just enjoying fucking around with the trucks, because, like, they have him and Percy go do this, and Percy runs
Yeah.
away.
This is a very small thing. I actually, as a kid, I loved this illustration for some reason, and I don't really know why.
It's a nice illustration.
Yeah.
I always thought it was really cute that Edward liked to, like, you know, play with the trucks. And I always figured that was why in, like, you know, later stories, it was canon that Edward was one of the few entrants the troublesome trucks would never fuck with, because, like, he, you know, I mean, in this one, he's kind of, like, you know, bumping them around and kind of, like, fucking with them. But, like, you know, I feel like this could easily be reinterpreted as, like, you know, Edward, like, actually playing with them, as if it's, like, you know, a game, and they're in on it. And I think that'd be cute, you know?
Yeah, I like that. Like, he doesn't go after them like most of the other engines would, where they just, like, treat them kind of, like, shittily just because, or, like, they're just stupid trucks. Where he's just doing it because he enjoys it, and, like, they eventually kind of, like, play along, I guess.
Yeah.
I
You know, there's no malice in Edward's actions here. He's just, you know, playing around. It's cute.
I just want to point out the phrasing of Edward played till there were no more trucks, implying that he just disintegrated them.
They
God.
disintegrated from his sheer power.
God, Edward's just fucking Thanosing these trucks.
I am inevitable.
No, you need to do it in, like, the fucking what's his face, William Hope voice. I am inevitable.
Wait, who's William Hope?
U.S. voice of Edward.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope they recast him.
I'm fairly certain that in the upcoming Hell reboot, everyone will be recast, which is unfortunate because, you know.
No, they'll keep Rob Rackshaw, because I'm pretty sure him and, like,
God.
whoever voices Thomas are, like, the only ones they still have on the shorts.
Okay, so
I think,
can I
you know,
can I be
Rob
honest?
Rackstraw.
I feel like they'll probably keep Keith Wickham just because he does like 90% of the characters, and
I think
he probably costs
I
way
think-
less than most people.
Yeah, I think Keith Wickham and Rob Rackstraw just kind of live in, like, the wherever the studio is they record all the things. And that's why they have so many roles. Just because they live there.
They live in the floorboards. Whenever they need them, they knock on the floor and then they just jump out.
Yeah. What do you want? We forgot we needed to record a line for Stanley. Can you do it? Yes.
You were right to tell me, Sharon Miller.
Excuse me.
That's right, it is Sharon Miller doing that. That's great.
Excuse me, Rob. Would you be able to? We need a little bit of help. Would you be able to help us with something? You were right to tell me, Sharon.
Oh,
Stealing
God.
my bit. No, Rob, I am the police. Okay, we should probably move on.
Yeah.
Sharon, I am the police.
Well, anyway, this is a cute page, so
Yeah,
we're gonna
it's a
move
nice
on
page.
Hey.
we're gonna move on to the next part of the story. Presently, he heard a whistle. Gordon came puffing along very slowly and very crossly. Instead of nice shining coaches, he was pulling a lot of very dirty coal trucks. A goods train, a goods train, a goods train, he grumbled. The shame of it, the shame of it, the shame of it. He went slowly through, with the trucks clattering and banging behind him. Edward laughed and went to find some more trucks.
I love Gordon's coal train with the van in the middle.
Yeah. You know, you gotta keep the coal in the vans, you know? Coal, it's very perishable, you know. You know.
You can't let the birds get to it.
Yeah,
Well,
you know, if you don't get it there on time, the coal will go bad.
Bad coal.
I know I'm ruining the bit, but it doesn't necessarily say he's pulling a coal train, just that he has a lot of dirty coal trucks, which he does. I
Yeah.
guess. I'm being too literal.
It's fine.
This is a more thing. I like this illustration too, and I like the little bit of Edward's like having his little siding next to the bridge.
Yeah. Is it bad I only just realized that this is the same place as was in the last illustration?
Maybe, because I thought that was obvious.
I always thought they were different because you couldn't see the trucks anymore.
This is no. That's the thing we were talking about.
No,
He
it was established in
disintegrated
the
them.
last time. Yeah.
Edward Thanos snapped them.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot.
Weren't you paying attention?
Sorry, I forgot the lore.
Yeah, Mary,
Oh.
Mary, this is
You'll
why
need to write
this is why
to-
you're the TV series bitch. You don't pay attention to the more intricate railway series lore, like Edward's disintegration powers.
I'm sorry
Yeah.
I don't have a high enough IQ to understand the railway series. I'll get my tattoo removed tomorrow.
That's why the TV series is, you know, infinitely inferior, because, you know, they nerfed Edward. Like, come on. How are we supposed to be compelled to like our characters if they don't entirely adhere to a bunch of arbitrary power scaling?
You see, this is the thing. This is far in the future, but this power is why Bill and Ben listen to Edward.
The reason they didn't use Edward in a main role from series like 3 to 6 is because they didn't know how to balance him on the power scaling. He's like Zeno, he's just too powerful.
That's why he's not on the Steam team anymore. He's too
Exactly.
powerful.
God.
He's the alien. He's Alien X from Ben 10. He's just too fucking powerful.
He's Lord Beerus.
Edward the Destroyer of Worlds.
Oh my god, what if instead of Thanos snapping those trucks, he actually Hawkeyed them?
Oh no. Edward versus Zamas, fight.
Death battle.
Hawkeye. God.
I think this is our first, like, real look into the greatest power of the island of Sodor, which is talk shit, get hit. You know, that's just the ethereal aura of Sodor. You know, Gordon says, "Hey, I'm gonna go by with the express. Look at me, I'm hot shit." And then when he comes by, he has coal trucks.
What
Talk
do you-
shit, get hit.
Okay, genuine thing. What do you think happened in the intermediate time between then and now?
I think Gordon thought he was going to be pulling the express, and then the Fat Controller, we don't know him yet, actually. So whoever organized the trains is like, hey, Gordon, we're going to need to pull these trucks. And he's like, shit.
Fuck.
But
Yeah.
sir, I need to show off to Edward. All the more reason you're pulling the coal train.
You talk shit, get hit.
Gordon, you know what happened to the last engine that tried to disrespect Edward.
It's just like the ashes of fucking like
The ashes of
9462.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm doing this for your own safety, Gordon.
They were naughty and were sent away, but it was to the ethereal plane.
I'm doing this for the safety of yourself and others.
God. Eldritch God Edward, over here.
Ah, God.
Sorry for constantly getting us on tangents.
It's fine. That's like half the fun.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of most of the point.
Yeah.
Soon a porter came and spoke to his driver. Gordon can't get up the hill. Will you take Edward and push him, please? They found Gordon halfway up the hill and very cross. His driver and firemen were talking to him severely. You are not trying, they told him. I can't do it, said Gordon. The noisy trucks hold an engine back so. If they were coaches now, clean, sensible things that come quietly, that would be different. So, I think this is the first time we, kind of get a glimpse into how the trucks will be characterized later, but it's more like, I feel like we need to establish that, Gordon is definitely not,
He's not putting the effort in here.
Yeah, Gordon's not having a hard time with this train. He's just fucking throwing a tantrum and stopping on the hill.
I love the idea that, it wasn't even the trucks that made him stop on the hill. It was just completely him stopping there. And that's why they named it after him.
I think that's canon. I mean, that's definitely what they imply in at least the Adventure Begins adaptation.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's the intent here.
Which, can I just say, I very much enjoy the Adventure Begins adaptation of this story.
It is a very good adaptation of the story.
Honestly, all of the Adventure Begins adaptations to me are, perfect, except for, Come Out Henry, which we'll get to that next story episode.
Come out, Henry. I'm gay.
Not what I meant,
but I support you.
you.
God. We'll have a lot to say about that next time.
Yeah.
But, I think this is a, the dichotomy of, the noisy trucks hold an engine back to coaches are clean, sensible things that come quietly. Kind of, sets up the dynamic of, what the coaches are generally like versus what the trucks are generally like. Even if it's, not meaning to right now. And, it makes sense, because, from a railway perspective, coaches are, they're built to be like that. And trucks are not nearly as well engineered, and thus, as we'll see later, makes them kind of troublesome.
I mean, trucks at the time that this story takes place are essentially just pieces of wood nailed to a sheet of metal.
They're just a bunch of fucking, stacks of timber and that have no brakes and they're very loosely coupled.
They're held together with glue and hope.
Yeah, it's a miracle the British railway system did not fall apart sooner.
I mean, it was kind of falling apart at the time this story started, anyway.
Yeah, Britain's railways do just kind of have an aura of failure, but Sodor does its best to cope.
I know nothing about the actual railways.
I just love the idea of, a promotional poster for the Great Western Railway that just says, "Visit the Great Western Railway. We have an aura of failure."
Yeah.
Dot just loses his mind.
This is a smear campaign!
I can't deal with this. I mean, honestly, it's
And you just see, like, fucking Thomas put up the poster.
it's woefully
Yeah.
untrue.
I'm tired of hearing about the Great Western Railway from you, motherfucker.
Thomas, you insufferable bitch.
Also, before we move on from this page, I would just like to draw attention to the William Middleton version of it. Which is currently on your screen right now if you're watching. Do you two want to have you two pull this up on the wiki, or?
Yeah, it's... He looks
Oh, man, that doesn't work.
constipated. Like, he doesn't look angry.
I know I shouldn't have eaten Chipotle.
Oh no, that was fuck, I was looking at the wrong illustration. Never mind, that's Gordon on top of the hill.
Look,
The
He
one of
looks
him
so
on
fucking terrible. Beep beep, hello, fat face.
Gordon could eat somebody.
He could.
I mean, any of the engines could eat somebody, theoretically.
Incorrect, Rusty couldn't.
Well, I mean, yeah, like, Rusty or, like, the small railway engines don't count, but, like, any of, like, the standard gauge engines, like, their mouths are probably bigger than, like, our bodies, so... you theoretically could get bored by fucking Oliver.
No, we're not gonna open this can of worms.
Okay, can I just say, because we're looking at the Middleton illustration right now, obviously it has some incredibly major issues, like particularly with Gordon himself. I do honestly kind of like his backgrounds and stuff. They look nice.
The backgrounds look okay, but like, you still can't take your eyes off of the giant galloping sausage front and center. And just the fucking endless line of basic trucks behind him.
I love you, Mary.
I love you too.
God. Surrounded by gay people.
Yeah, and you're one of them.
Rainy, leave Sailor Mars alone.
Alright, we're gonna go to the next page.
I think Mary may need to deal with Rainy fucking being a terrorist to Sailor Mars.
No, she just knocked the figure over. Can we just include that out of context?
Yes.
Yay.
Edward's driver came up. We've come to push, he said. No use at all, said Gordon. You wait and see, said Edward's driver. They brought the train back to the bottom of the hill. Edward came up behind the brake van, ready to push. Beep beep, I'm ready, said Edward. Poop poof, no good, grumbled Gordon. The guard blew his whistle, and they pulled and pushed as hard as they could. So, the whistle sounds. I think this is the first time...
Yeah.
This is the first time we heard Gordon's.
Poop, poop,
Yeah, let's get that out of our systems.
poop.
I have
Gordon loves poop.
God.
God.
2 comments on this section. So, firstly, Edward is really small. Like, he just looks small in the illustration, and it's cute.
Like, honestly, I
Yeah.
like him being really tiny.
Yeah, no, same.
He's small baby.
Yeah.
I think
And-
I think in real life, in terms of height, he's actually shorter than Thomas.
Aw. Yeah, like in this like in the others, like looking at like the one on the next page of the book I have of like him at the water tower, like the last image, he looks big still. Whereas like this, they make him look tiny, and I like that. He looks
Yeah.
like smaller than he even normally would. Also, that peep peep, I'm ready was his first line in the story.
Oh yeah, this is the first time he's spoken, isn't it?
So it turns out
It's
Edward's
just
a really
all
useful...
been Gordon.
Wait, what this?
Turns out Edward the really useful engine, whatever the season 6 episode was just paying homage to this in that way too.
I suppose for the most part, this story isn't really kind of about Edward. It's more so as an introduction to Gordon. I mean, like Edward's obviously like here, and we see a lot of it from his perspective, but he's not really like the main focus.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not sure about that, because we also spend a lot of time, like, before Gordon needs help up the hill, where he's like, playing around with the truck, and then we spend time with him after he comes up the hill, where he goes to the water tower and stuff. So I feel like that's a fair take, but I personally disagree just because of like how much he is there.
I feel like it kind of reflects the fact that, like, the next story in this book was supposed to be Henry's, which was supposed to take place on a completely different railway, and then, like, that would be the end of the book. Like, it kind of implies that, like, Gordon and Edward were intended to be recurring characters. It's just, like, Edward tied into this story, and then, like, yeah.
See, this is the thing. I could see it maybe being if he did another book with only the 3 stories, that maybe there would eventually become like a wide cast of different characters on different railways that would appear like somewhat commonly but not really have any specific main character.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I mean, eventually we like kind of got there with like how the extended cast of the railway series ended up with like all the various railways on Sodor.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was Audrey's way of just doing that, like what he originally planned the series to be, but
It might have been.
Something I always really enjoyed about the world of Thomas in both the books and in the show is how every character is part of like a little group that you can associate them with, and like there's not
Yeah.
really any one character that's by himself. There's always like someone for him to be with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something I kind of like about the new version of the official website that just dropped. Sorry to date the episode like this.
it's fine.
But like the new version of the official website that just dropped has like a location section on it, and it includes like little lists of characters that are associated with it, and I think that is really cool, even if it kind of sucks, because like
Because most of them just say Edward and Emily, to my knowledge.
oh yeah. But other than that, it's
That's a
it
cool
is a
idea.
cool idea in theory, just because like that's how it be on Sodor. There's a bunch of like individual characters that end up forming these groups, and these groups have like locations that are important to them, and you'll often see them there. So it's
Yeah.
I'm tripping over my own words trying to say this, but it's
You're saying it fine, don't worry.
this world that Audrey has created is very cool, even if it technically doesn't exist in the story we're reading yet.
The thing I always think about is how, like, there's stuff like the Pack, and then, like, the Coldy Fell engines, and then stuff like, like the Brendan Branch characters with, like, Edward, Boko, Bill, and Ben, and then later in the TV series, Cranky, Salty, like, and the other 3 that they don't do anything with.
Yeah, that's one of Thomas's great strengths, is just the vast array of characters that it has.
Yeah, which is why
So,
the
like-
reboot's gonna be garbage.
Yeah, because they're basically getting rid of one of Thomas's greatest strengths, which is, the giant cast of characters and fleshed out world. Like, even if the characters don't get any focus, they're still, there doing their thing. It's, it's like a living, breathing community.
This is getting into a very different topic, but I do feel like a reboot starting Thomas from the ground up can work, like, even without, like, necessarily all of the characters there. But, like, I do think it, like, they have to pick carefully, and, like, they're not going to, like, which characters
Yeah.
kind of need to be there, not even just because, like, oh, well, like, any sort of, like, railway series seniority or anything, but, like, what characters are gonna add to the cast most? Because it's like, you bring back someone like Paxton before you bring back someone like Stanley, for example.
Yeah, because Paxton is like a beloved character that adds a lot of unique ideas to the cast, because he's an incredibly unique character among the others.
Yeah, he provides a role that really no one else can. And, like, I
Yeah.
think that gets him priority, honestly, even over someone like Oliver to me. And that's not to say Oliver
Yeah.
isn't unique, but
I feel like the reason Oliver is underutilized now is because he was underutilized in the books.
Yeah, he was underutilized in the books. And, like, the TV series did utilize him, but they also kind of, like, decontextualized a lot of his, like, character and conflict and backstory, and it made it kind of weird.
I like at this point, like not at this point, but like in the Brenner era, how his role eventually just became the move toad machine.
Yeah. I feel like the best way to describe, like, the dichotomy between Oliver and Duck is that Duck is a liberal and Oliver is a leftist.
my daring escape from the scrapyard.
Oh dear, why would you break the law like this? I was going to die otherwise, but breaking the law is bad. Fuck
Yes.
you!
Yes, real Oliver, maybe if you'd actually obeyed the law, you wouldn't have died. If I obeyed the law, I would have died. Well, that's your problem.
God.
Well, maybe if we just train the police to not shoot minorities, we'll, you know, we don't have to worry about them. Duck, the police are a fascist institution! Please!
He's not wrong.
He is not wrong.
Yes.
We stand Comrade Oliver.
Please keep that in.
We're going on a lot of, like, far-flung tangents today.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, sorry I
it's,
kind of
it's fun.
derailed
It's
that.
fun though, is the thing.
It's fun, yeah.
Honestly, a lot of it is just like discussion that sparks like from
Yeah.
the story.
Which
'cause-
honestly, I think is a good angle to take with the podcast. Is just like both dissecting the story itself and like seeing what kind of discussion springs up from three different people with three different interpretations of the series, reading it together.
Yeah. Alright, so are we ready to move on to the next page?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it, puffed Gordon. I will do it. I will do it. I will do it, puffed Edward. I can't do it. I will do it. I can't do it. I will do it. I can't do it. I will do it, they puffed together. Edward pushed and puffed and puffed and pushed as hard as ever he could, and before he realized it, Gordon found himself at the top of the hill.
So, like, can I just point out how in this illustration, Gordon looks a lot more like Green Henry than he does actual Gordon?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he looks like Henry, and fucking I love that. Honestly, both of the facial illustrations for this image are kind of terrible because
Yeah.
like Middleton's just looks like he's fucking constipated, and that's what I
Yeah.
meant before. Like, just look at his eyes. That's the face of a man who's trying to go but can't, and I guess that's why Gordon says poop poop. Anyway, and this, like, yeah, he just looks like it has the energy of like in like season 1 when they would like give like Edward like James's facial face, or like Thomas Percy's, or like the odd times they gave like Henry Gordon's or something.
Yeah, this.
Yeah, he
This
does kind of look like Blue Henry.
Yeah, like, both in terms of the actual, like, design of the engine, I guess, himself, and also the facial design, everything about this just screams Henry with Gordon's buffers.
Yeah.
Which ironically they drew.
We'll get to that. There's an interesting story behind that. I really liked how in Dalby's illustration there's like a little man watching Gordon go by. I think that's cool. This is you know,
that's a cool touch.
Yeah, because,
if Gordon didn't,
that's a very standard thing to see on the railways.
yeah, I feel like if Gordon didn't look like that, I think this would be a very good illustration.
This is the thing, if you made, like, an illustration edit to make him, like, old shape Henry, it'd probably look pretty good.
Yeah. Also, I just noticed, just looking at this, that in the Dalby illustration, Gordon's buffers are wonky.
Oh god, I just noticed that too.
That's gonna bother you forever now.
I think from what I can see, it looks like the right one is mostly straight, but then the left one looks like it's like bent forward slightly.
Yeah, it's just doing its own thing.
This is a small thing, but I want to point out I always really liked how Dolby illustrated this theme.
Yeah, it looks good.
Honestly, like I've made fun of like some of the faces, or mainly this face, but like I liked Dolby's illustrations. Like
Yeah,
I always liked his style.
I always thought he was very talented, even if he didn't really give much
Yeah.
of a shit about the books.
I feel like there are some, like, problems with perspective, which we'll get into in a couple illustrations, but, like, they do look very vibrant and full of life, which, compared to the war crime that was the Middleton illustrations, is pretty cool.
I don't think it's harder to be better than the Middleton illustrations just because it feels like those focused on everything but the engines' faces, and like that's the most important part to get right with Thomas, I
Yeah.
think.
Also, the main thing that I wanted to talk about on this page, which we have kind of, like, tangented over, is, like, the dialogue here, where, like, Edward and Gordon are like, I can't do it, I will do it. Like that. This is the quintessential, like, origin of Thomas right here, because as we were talking about last episode, Audrey grew up near, I think it's the Licky Incline.
I believe it's been said he lived near Box Tunnel.
Oh yeah, he grew up, seeing and hearing trains banking each other up steep hills, and when he heard the puffing of the two engines, he heard this kind of conversation going on, like, the big engine is sulking and, he can't do it, but the little engine in the back, he's, full of courage and, he will do it. This is like,
This is Thomas in primordial ooze form.
yeah, the primordial ooze of Thomas, I think, is the best way to put it.
It's the basis of everything that's
Yeah.
to come.
This is also one of the first showcases of, like, I guess what they call, like, Thomas talk, which is, like, the certain way that the engines, like, act in certain situations.
Yeah, like, they'll repeat that kind of thing to themselves, like, hurry, hurry, hurry. Like,
Yeah.
they're kind of saying it in, like, a beat. I always imagined that Johnny Morris would be, like, doing his, like, puffing thing. Like, I can't do it.
Which I always thought was, like, cute.
Yeah. It's real cool.
It's like, it's like, I don't even know how to explain it, but this kind of thing makes them really feel like they are living steam engines.
Yeah.
Like, that they're not just people in train bodies.
Yeah. Not, it's not, the characters in Thomas aren't just, those, like, fucking, like, art memes where, it's just, like, some horrible human crawled into the shape of a train.
Oh god, I've gotten sent that so many times.
Yeah, it's real terrible. Every time I see that, I just want to,
It's like,
I want to, like,
these were never funny.
I want to pull a Sam Wilkinson and line up and shoot all the people who made those.
Oh god, I forgot he said that.
He did. Let's just gloss over that. And...
Back on the topic at hand, like with the interaction, I like this a lot, and ironically for sort of the opposite reason, because like this is the first time, like pretty much ever, I think, in this book so far, that two engines have interacted basically directly to each other. And because, like, Gordon brags to Edward at the beginning, but Edward doesn't say anything back. And, like, in the first story, you have, like, the engines being like, oh, like, driver won't choose you, but it's more like a general, like, idea and not a character interaction. And, like, I think, like, part of why this story is just pretty much the basis of Thomas, like, even more so than Edward's Day Out to me, is that, like, part of the series' strongest thing, and it's what we were talking about before with, like, reboots and everything, is the character dynamics. And, like, a lot of Thomas comes from, like, hey, what if we paired, like, Thomas with this character, or what if we put like, even, like, going into recent examples, what if we put, like, the incredibly, like, Daisy, for lack of a better word, with, like, a pushover, like, nice character who's just too nice to say anything.
Which, like, if I can say, is probably the thing that made Daisy such a likable character to people now.
It's the thing that made me like both Daisy and Ryan, because I never cared about either before. And it's like, even like going into now, I think more than anything, that's what Thomas is about. And it's like, obviously, they're in engine situations, but I do think that they're not just engines is just as much a core of Thomas as them being engines.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily mean that they're not like
No,
people at all, but I more so
I know
mean
what
that
you
like
meant.
I just say I find like the specific way that it's phrased a very like that is how a sentient engine would talk, and I find that interesting.
Yeah, no, I completely get what you mean, and that was like I agree with it, and like that's like how Audrey came up with the story in the first place. I just yeah, I guess it's
It's a good
partially just
story.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to the next page of this book.
Yeah.
I've done it! I've done it! I've done it! He said proudly, and forgot all about Edward pushing behind. He didn't wait to say thank you, but ran so fast that he passed 2 stations before his driver could make him stop. Edward had pushed so hard that when he got to the top, he was out of breath. Gordon ran on so fast that Edward was left behind.
So like
So I think it's really funny that this detail they leave out of the television version is that, you know, after getting helped out, Gordon just fucking, like, rushes along so fast that,
this is the thing.
he
Do you think
passes all the stations.
do you think he had to go back afterwards? Do you think he
I
had to
think that would
stop
be
in
really
those?
funny.
I think that's the implication because it says before his driver could make him stop, which means he was trying to. He was
Yeah.
probably supposed to stop and deliver coal at like every station.
Wow, great job, Gordon!
This
You
is
fucking
the story,
failure.
Reading it like this, the story really is just the perfect introduction for Gordon.
Yeah, it really is.
Gordon, we were meant to stop at Marin. Oh, we didn't go too far. We went 2 stations beyond Marin, you stupid engine.
We're in Vickerstown. Well, then we have to go back anyway, so Vickerstown probably isn't 2 stations away, but I don't know the map, so
Yeah, the map doesn't
Sure.
exist yet, so it doesn't
I-
matter.
I obviously like, the map didn't really exist at this point, but I think the general through line from Gordon's Hill is Wellsworth at the bottom, Marin at the top, and then I want to say Kelsthorpe Road.
I think it's Crosby next, but like
Yeah, Crosby.
this is like a detail. This is like a detail of Gordon's Hill that people like forget just because like, you know, it's not in the TV series and they like made Gordon's Hill 2-sided. But in the Railway series, Gordon's Hill is 1-sided.
wait, what?
You know, you start at Wellsworth.
In the Railway series, Wellsworth is at the bottom, and Marin is at the summit, and then I believe it's like it keeps going down so minorly that you don't even really notice it all the way until Vickerstown.
Yeah. Which is kind of that is kind of how it is in the real world, as opposed to like, you know, the mountain that is the CGI version.
Wait,
Which honestly, I find it interesting that like that's never really been shown in the TV series, because like I do like the idea of Gordon's Hill being like just the part that Gordon was a dipshit on.
Yeah.
I never realized, but in the like the image, like a page or 2 back, or like Gordon's on the top of the hill, it doesn't slope afterwards. Like it doesn't even start. I I always thought like he was racing down the hill, as in like, or like racing through, because he was like racing down the hill. I thought the image of Edward on this page is supposed to be him going down the hill.
Yeah, I'd always thought that too. I guess that's where the TV series got that visual from.
What I think the intention is with this specifically isn't that he's running down because of the hill. It's that he's going so quick because he thinks that he did it himself and he's proud of himself. So he's just like, oh, eat shit, Edward, I'm going to go. Look at me go quick.
Now that he's not on the slope anymore, he can actually, like, get a grip and, like, leave Edward behind.
Yeah, that it makes sense. I just I never realized.
They took your interpretation for the TV series, for what it's worth.
It's an easy mistake to make just looking at these illustrations, but it is still like a thing that exists, that Gordon's Hill is one-sided.
Huh.
It's like cryptid version of Gordon's Hill.
I wonder if for the TV series if they misinterpret it like I did, or if they thought like a big hill like that would be.
I'm almost certain that the spectacle of having like multiple of these hill sets was a deciding factor in how they interpreted it. But I think they did make the same mistake as you, yeah.
I may be wrong, but I swear, doesn't in James and the Trucks, the trucks hold him back on the hill and then push him down the other side?
In Dirty Objects, they push him down towards Wellsworth in the Railway series. Like, basically every time there's a runaway on Gordon's Hill, that gives you the direction you're going, essentially.
Huh.
So, the crash with the tar, it happens at Marin in the TV series, which is at the top of the hill in the Railway series. But I believe in the Railway series it happens at Wadsworth.
Doesn't... Shit.
We've just shattered your entire world, haven't we?
Yeah, no, because I was gonna say, in Thomas and the Trucks, it's I thought he leaves from... Well, Tidmouth in the Railway series. I was gonna say Knapford. But, and then, they push him down the hill.
He leaves from Vickerstown.
Wait, what?
Because Vickerstown,
yeah, because he's at Vickerstown
used to be the big station before the sheds got moved.
I know nothing about Railway series lore. Oh my god.
It's what it is I believe in the early 20s, the Northwestern moved their main shed and their main terminus to Tidmouth. So everything in the first, I believe, 2 books, maybe 3, is with Vickerstown being the big station. So Thomas in Thomas and the Trucks leaves from Vickerstown.
I think in James the Red Engine, that's when they changed to Tidmouth being the main station, because that's when nationalization happens, and also James is supposed to be based at Tidmouth in James the Red Engine.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's where everyone's moved at that point, but James is definitely there.
Why did they flip the railway?
The reason that the Sodor engines were based at Vickerstown before was because, that made more sense with, the arrangement they had with, the big 4 railway companies for, trains going to and from Sodor. But after the network nationalized, there wasn't really a need for that anymore, so they moved all the stuff over to Tidmouth.
Yeah.
Everything I thought was real is a lie. I was just staring just down at the book with my hand kind of up to my mouth for the past 5 minutes. It's just I didn't know any of this, and I knew bits. Thinking back, I remember hearing that the sheds had been changed, but I never thought about it. Probably because my primary version of Sodar in my head is mostly just TV series. So yeah, I never thought about it.
That's one of the things I'm really gonna enjoy about this podcast, because you and other people like you will get to learn firsthand that like the big differences between the Railway series and TV series in like, their maps and lore and stuff.
Hey,
Hey,
I'm looking
hey,
forward to more,
Mari.
honestly. Yeah.
Fishing village.
Okay, can I tell a story?
Well, we've gone on stranger tangents, so go ahead.
So this shows how bad I am with maps and kind of how I view Sodar. So for the longest time, how people were saying like, "Oh, Arthur should return. His branch line is in CGI." So I thought the fishing village was Arlsberg Harbor. So, like, in my mindset, it was like, oh, yeah, like, that makes sense. It's, like, an area the show uses all of the time. There's a lot of characters there. Putting Arthur in there, like, could be fun. Like, they could use him in, like, the dynamics there with, like, Duck or, like, Ryan and Daisy or the Smallies or something. And then, like, I had like sent Liv some like ideas I had for something, but basically it involved like when they were building the Harwick line, and I mentioned Arthur working on there because like it was his branch line, and then like Liv was like, that's not right. It's like the fishing village is on the other side of the island. I was like, wait, what? and it's like because I had and then I was just like, then why do like people want Arthur back so bad? It like the fishing village, like that fishing village never appears. I get wanting him back.
If I remember right, I said something along the lines of Arthur is quite possibly as far away from the Little Western as you can be while still being on Sodor.
Yeah, which is where I like had the like reaction, like basically like what the hell? It was like wait, what? Because I just didn't know, because the way my brain registered it was like, oh, like people like are saying he should like return because his branch line is in CGI, and it was like I thought it was like the big area that got like a whole special and like tons of episodes based around it and stuff, and not like the area that's appeared as like a cameo a few times. Like I didn't know. I don't know maps. Even, like, I have the complete collection, and even, like, just looking, because I tried to look at this map to see if it showed where, like, Gordon's Hill and stuff was, and I thought it said Vales Bridge at one point.
Freddy is canon.
I don't know the lore, like, or at least the map, like, geography lore at all.
This is gonna be really fun.
Well, on that bombshell, let's
It's time to end. Kidding.
Let's finish this story.
Oh yeah, it would be time to end because this is the last page. So
yeah.
Finish it.
The guard waved and waved, but Edward couldn't catch up. He ran on to the next station, and there the driver and fireman were very pleased with him. The fireman gave him a nice long drink of water, and the driver said, "I'll get out my paint tomorrow and give you a beautiful new coat of blue with red stripes. Then you'll be the smartest engine in the shed." So, first of all, when I was a kid, I didn't really understand, like, the smartest meaning
being
here.
painted blue
like smart
with red
as in
stripes
you
makes
look
you
good.
the most intelligent.
Don't you know IQ is tied to paint jobs?
To be fair, Edward probably is the most intelligent.
I've said this to Mari multiple
there.
times. I feel like Toby is the only one that can read, and Edward can kind of read.
I see that. I think Toby's the only one who can read, but Edward is the only one who can do math.
Yeah, that'll make sense.
If you want to increase your IQ, just chug.
Like this, just
trust me.
I feel like I think Toby and Edward might be a neat case study for like intelligence versus wisdom, but I think we'll need to like read further before getting to that. But like the main thing I want to talk about here is how here the text says the driver's gonna give Edward a beautiful paint of blue, a beautiful new coat of blue with red stripes. Now, in the original illustrations, as you may have noticed,
the stripes are black and yellow.
Well, more specifically yellow, and I'm pretty sure in the original like version of the text, it said yellow.
Here, wait, I'm going to the wiki page to see if it says that, because I'm actually curious.
I don't know if it like.
Well, now we have to track down an original printing of the 3 railway engines to find out.
Oh god.
Listen, it'll be a business expense.
The wiki doesn't mention it, from what I can tell.
Well, I guess we'll put this to everybody in the comments. If you own an original printing of the Free Railway engines, let us know what it says.
Yeah. But I mean, I assume it must have said, like, blue with yellow stripes, just because that wouldn't make sense with the illustrations. Hey, this is future Jamie, who's editing this podcast right now. I went back and checked Audrey's 1952 audiobook recording of Edward and Gordon, and this is what he says at this point in the story.
The fireman gave him a nice long drink of water, and the driver said, "I'll get out my paint tomorrow and give you a beautiful new coat of blue with yellow stripes."
So yeah, it was originally blue with yellow stripes. So yeah, that existed. It's not some Mandela effect bullshit. They just changed it in later editions, probably so that it would properly reflect the illustrations in later books. So anyway, with that mystery solved, here is the rest of your podcast.
This is like a far off thing. Remember when they changed James's stripe color?
What?
Towards the end,
they did that.
Towards the end of the Railway series, I think it was in Governor and Peter's illustrations. James's stripes on his side, not the ones on not the boiler band ones. They were blue instead of black.
Yeah, I feel like that's that's an interesting livery choice, but I don't necessarily
I prefer
agree
the black,
with it.
personally.
Mostly just because I feel like a lot of the time if you don't get the colors of both the paint and the lining just right, they'll clash really badly.
Hmm.
So I feel like the black is a lot less.
I
feel like in most
I prefer the
interpretations
black
of James,
in general.
yeah, the black is a lot less offensive when it comes to dynamic between the colors of the lining and livery.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagining James without the black is weird.
Yeah, I mean we'll get to see it just because in the first couple times James shows up in the Railway series, he doesn't have black lining on his splashers, and that's fucked up.
Does he not?
He doesn't. He doesn't get them until Toby the Tram Engine.
Wait, does he not have lining on the splashers for the first few then?
He doesn't have any on the first two splashers, but he has it on the one that's merged with his cab.
I don't like that.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Fucked up and evil design choices by C. Reginald
I know
Dalby.
it doesn't really necessarily count. I just looked at the not James further into this book, and he has it.
Yeah, I don't understand. We'll get to that, because that's its own whole bag of worms. But,
Can I ask a dumb question?
Sure.
What are splashers?
They're the little,
They're the little bumps
the little...
that go over the wheels. You know how there's the wheels and there's the little bump on the running board?
Oh, yeah, he doesn't have them. Huh.
Yeah, those are called splashers.
I never noticed that.
Let it be known, folks, Mari is not really into railways.
Yeah.
She said she was our TV series bitch, and she wasn't lying.
I mean, there's people that like the TV series that, are, more of, the rail fans, I guess.
Yeah, they exist.
You're just not one of them.
I mean, I never... There's a reason I was like, hey, can you be my railway consultant when I wanted to start making a Thomas series, and you were like, yes, now do you want to buy a face mask? It's totally legit.
Oh god.
Shall we go to overall thoughts?
Yeah.
Before we do that, I want to broach a discussion with you.
Sure.
Do you think that the Northwestern blue livery would look better with yellow lining or red lining?
Personally, I think it's just because I'm used to it. I don't think it would look nice with yellow, just because red has been the standard in everything I've seen from that color scheme for the entirety of my life.
I feel like the light blue with yellow could look nice, but I don't think it would work on Gordon or Edward, and I doubt they'd change Thomas. Like I think maybe like some, like if he had like a mix of like red and yellow lining to like match the number could, like, or like I guess
It's
he
like-
has yellow lining a bit because his cab, like
yeah,
his
they do
windows and
have
stuff
yellow
are
lining
yellow
on the cab
lined.
windows. Like, I don't know, looking at
So
like
he
the
already
first
has it.
This is like
Yeah.
this is like a thing. I think James being the only one that has yellow lining is another like defining aspect of him being incredibly unique. Because like if you look
I
at
don't-
every other character who has lining, it's red. But for James, he is red, and then he has gold and black, which is like obviously the red is the most defining differentiation for him. But I think the gold and the black are also a good, like, he's got his own things going on.
I see where you're coming from, and I think I do, I would stick with the red and blue, or blue and red. But, I mean, just looking at, like, the first illustration of the 3 railway engines has all the blue engines with yellow lining, and it does kind of look good, so I feel like if we did live in the alternate universe where all the blue engines had yellow lining, I wouldn't be complaining.
It's this weird thing where like looking at it, I feel like it could work for Edward, but it looks weird on Gordon, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see that. Also, Edward looks kind of janky in this illustration.
I feel like with
Perspective, what's that?
I feel like with Gordon, they definitely would keep the red because they could use it as like a. Well, if you look at most blue express steam engines, the lining is either white or red. I don't think you see it yellow very often.
I was
Yeah.
I was honestly thinking for Gordon, like more of like the blue and red in a weird way kind of reflects, like the blue with like the lines of red kind of like reflects his personality a bit. Like he tries to, like even just in this story, like he at the beginning tries to push this like, oh ho, ho, I'm so cool, watch me little Edward, and then like shows up later and he's just like pissed and angry. And it's like he's the kind of person that like will like try and like push like that image of like, I'm the best, I'm so cool,
I'm fastest and best and pull the express.
Exactly. And like, but like he gets really mad at like any inconvenience, really. So like he's not as like cool as he tries to push himself as, and like
It's like
I don't know, like I feel like his design kind of reflects that in a way.
this is like can I talk about like an event in the series that's quite a bit far off?
Sure.
It's actually something that happens in Chris's books, which is Gordon like giving up the Express, which is like a very far off event. But like, I feel like were that written by Audrey, that would actually be a really interesting piece of character growth.
Because he would have actually made it a story.
Yeah. It would have been like this is like, I don't know if either of you have seen it recently, but Wild Nor'Wester did a video that's about that, and it's essentially Gordon. It's essentially Gordon says, "I want the Express to be the best it can be, and if I'm not the one that can do that, then I want you to find somebody else." And I think that would be a really interesting piece of development to see him actually go through.
Yeah.
The Chris books, because honestly I was like trying to think of like, do the like books like address that like when it happens?
They don't. I think
like,
it's only said in the extended universe books.
Yeah, because it was like I thought about it and like I thought of like that story and it was like, wait, that was the Wild Nor'Wester one, and then it's like, yeah, no, trusting Chris to write a story is.
I mean,
yeah.
There's one story where you have the story where Gordon gets replaced, and then Thomas finds a swan or something, and then Gordon puts out a fire on a commuter train, and then that's all they do with it.
Yeah,
Good job, Chris.
The
It's
best
it's like
Railway series book.
you literally could have had an entire book about Gordon developing as a character, and then the ending would be him passing on the Wild Nor'Wester to Pip and Emma. And that would have
No,
been
he
like
took
a
it-
really nice story to show who is introduced in the first book and who is constantly reinforced to be incredibly full of himself, to have matured and like he's improved
Yeah.
himself and he's like he wants the Express to be the prestigious train, even if he's not necessarily the one pulling it anymore.
The execution we got is kind of the, and this goes for a lot of stuff in like the later parts of the Railway series, like post Tramway Engines, is it kind of has the Mavis issue a lot of people bring up, where it's like maturing happens, but we don't see it, so it just kind of feels like it was an afterthought, like where the character didn't really matter all that much, because it's like there isn't an arc like between, say, like Toby's Tightrope and Salty Secret, I think, is their first appearance after that. Like,
Yeah.
I think it might be Buffer Bother.
no, because Secret was the premiere of the season.
Oh,
I
okay.
think.
I don't really remember the order of most of the 6 and 7 episodes.
Honestly, I think Mavis's, like, quote-unquote development is more just, like, the writers forgetting how Mavis acted in those stories. And, like, I'm pretty sure her role is supposed to be filled by, like, Boko or someone.
It was probably supposed to be Boko, and then they decided on using the quarry instead of the clay pits as a location, and then they were like, Mavis is marketable because she's like the only female character we have besides Daisy, so just throw her in there instead.
Yeah,
I just
that's probably
I
it.
it like it's like an extremely small thing. It always bothered me as a kid that Bill and Ben and Mavis were always together, even though Bill and Ben had Sodor China Clay written on them, and then Mavis had Farquhar Quarry Company.
Man, it's like the late TV series didn't really pay a lot of attention to the continuity or world building.
Or try.
I never thought
Or
about
try.
it, honestly.
Listen, Mari, your aquarium car's bio woman. It doesn't really matter if you didn't pay attention.
They were cool looking.
Okay.
Do we want
Well,
to
now
wrap it up?
now that we've sufficiently bullied Marina, let's get into our let's get into our final thoughts. So,
Let's do it.
what do we think about these stories, and what would we rate them on a scale of Thomas to Douglas? Would you like to go first, Mari?
Sure. I was honestly unsure, like, before we started recording. It's tight, like, between, like, potentially going up, but I want to say a Percy, because it's not like Edward's Day Out, where, like, kind of afterwards, like, I just don't have any feelings on the story as a whole. And it's like, I haven't watched Adventure Begins or the TV series version of this in a while, and honestly, if I did, it would probably be more of like what this story was in my head, I guess. But like, just reading like the Railway series book, there's a reason this is pretty much like the Thomas story, and like also the Edward story, really, because like they did this like 3 times after. I'm like, before we recorded this podcast, I was thinking about it. I'm genuinely surprised they haven't done an episode where it's like this and Edward the Really Useful Engine by extension, but like even more. So instead of him pushing 1 engine, and instead of him pushing 2 engines, he's pushing 3 engines up the hill. Because honestly,
and then he goes past Henry. He's just like, now this is a super rescue.
now this is. I'm just like genuinely, because they've done this story like at least like twice since, and like not even just like adaptions of it, but like just doing the story again, because it's like you can argue whether Edward the real what's the really useful Edward?
Edward the really very super useful engine.
Yeah. What I don't even remember the name. What is the
I think
What
it's
is-
called Edward the Really Useful Engine.
No, what is the season 18 or 18 one?
Old Reliable
Old
Edward.
Reliable Edward.
Okay, that's the one I was thinking of, because it's like I've heard people argue that it's not just Edward and Gordon again, which I won't comment on because I haven't watched the episode in forever, and like don't have much memory of it, so I don't feel like I'm really in the right place to comment on that. But like,
I watched it a couple of months ago, and like it's incredible. It is very similar, and it's like you can definitely tell it has a lot of inspiration taken from Edward and Gordon, but it also has like its own kind of flair to it, because it's like there's the whole scene of Edward like, oh well, you said you didn't need me, so I'm just gonna go, and
forgot about that.
and then he comes back when Gordon's like, oh, I'm sorry for being a little bitch, baby.
I like that. I really need to rewatch it. Honestly,
It's a really good episode, honestly.
Yeah, I love it.
honestly, the main thing I think of with this is that, like, the basic story of, like, it's like a template in so many ways, and that's, like, not an insult to this story, because, like, I like it, I enjoy it, but, like, the basic, as you said, the basic Thomas story of talk shit, get hit, being the moral, like, comes to play here, because it's, like, it's the most basic of Thomas stories, because it's engine is a dick, other engine like reacts to it, and then later karma comes and bites dick engine in the ass. That's a sentence. And
Karma comes and bites
and
Engine
then
Dick.
and then the engine that was rude too, the victim essentially. I should have just done engine A and engine B instead of dick engine and other engine, but too late for that now. Like, ends up having to help them, and like that formed here. Like that.
Which, honestly,
Yeah,
I feel like the fact that this is only the second story in the entire series, and it was such a strong basis that they use it as the baseline for probably a majority of stories in this series to come. Like,
Yeah.
says a lot about how good of a base work it was.
Yeah.
It really is probably like the best start the series could have had, especially since, like, as I mentioned before, like, originally it was supposed to be like separate stories about like different railways and stuff, so like including a story that followed up on a character like we already know and like focused on the interaction with another engine, I think just built up like what the series is, at least to me. I rambled a lot. Hope you go.
It is very much like you said, like, earlier, that this, this is the primordial ooze of Thomas.
Yeah.
I rambled a lot, and I forget if I actually gave a rating when I started
You said Percy.
Honestly, now I'm thinking of bumping it up to a Toby.
Aw.
Yeah,
it's somewhere there.
I feel like I would give the story a Toby too. Like, it's
Same, actually.
Yeah.
This is a quintessential Thomas story. Like, this is, one of the stories that is like synonymous with Thomas. Like, like,
I guess you could
Thomas
say
and
it's,
Gordon.
I guess you could say it's Setominous.
I was gonna say Tonominous.
Tonominous.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't say either of those, because those are bad portment.
But yeah, I definitely bumped this up to a Toby. It's like, I think like just this version is a bit basic, but like there's a reason for that, and it's kind of the thing where it's like I can't really fault it for that. Thinking more about it.
Yeah, I would give it a Toby as well, just for like pretty much the same reasons Mari would.
Yeah, I feel like you really hit the nail on the head with explaining all this stuff, Mari.
Yeah. And now we don't.
So-
I didn't want to
now we
talk
don't-
over you girls.
Now I don't need to go up to an hour and 45 minutes of explaining.
Yeah. So yeah, Edward's day out, Toby's across the board.
Edward and Gordon.
Edward and Gordon.
Sorry.
It's okay. So
It's a
yeah,
story-
Edward and Gordon, Toby's across the board.
It's a
Probably
story-
also made from those boards, but that's the story for another day.
Yeah, we ripped a board from Toby and we put it on the book.
Yeah.
That's our score sheet.
Yep.
We asked Toby if we could have any like old planks when he's getting them replaced, and he said yes, and we're using those as the tally marks.
Yeah.
This
All
story
right.
is-
Well, on that note, I guess it's time to end the episode.
Yeah.
Next time, we will be tackling the only story that the internet knows about from Thomas the Tank Engine, the sad story of Henry. So look
I'm very
forward to that
sad, and
next
this is
time.
my story.
God.
So we'll see you
Thanks for
then.
Bye bye, everyone.
I've been Jamie,
I have been Liv.
And I've been Marina.
and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.